Greetings, metallurgists. What's been going on? Marty here from Heavy Metallurgy. This time to bring you a review. I haven't been in front of the camera for a review in a long time. I've been behind the scenes doing all the editing for this stuff, but we're going to talk about some old school death metal, of a tribute to a very influential band, namely Death. Tribute bands aren't typically my thing, but California's Gruesome are an exception, and stick around and we're going to talk about their new one coming out. All right, I'm here today to talk to you about the third full-length release from California's Gruesome called Silent Echoes, which is coming out on June 6th via Relapse Records. And for those of you that may not be familiar with this band, Gruesome is a supergroup of sorts featuring Matt Harvey from Exhumed. He's also been involved in other bands like Left to Die. Dan Gonzalez on guitar, who is also in the bands Possessed and Apsu. Gus Rios on drums, who was also in the Left to Die tribute from Rick Ross. And he was also in another death tribute band called Living Monstrosity. And of course, we've got Robin Mason on bass, who is also in the band called Durketa, which is an all-lady death metal band that are pretty killer, old school, churning, heavy, just sick and old. So first thing right off the bat, it's this album. I don't really keep tabs on Gruesome. I've got Savage Land. I do not have Twisted Prayers or any of the EPs, but Savage Land always kind of struck me as an excellent tribute to Death, the band fronted by the legendary Chuck Schuldiner. And, you know, when that album came out, I thought it was really cool. I listened to it quite a bit, but it kind of left me wanting to, listen to Death, which any good tribute band, typically it does that. But it just really kind of amazes me just how invested Matt is in the workings of Chuck. I mean, he did a tour filling in on vocals for Death to All, which is members of Death getting together and going around and paying tribute to Chuck. He also is the guitarist and singer for the band Left to Die, which is Rick Ross, who was also a member of Death back in the day. And he was also in a death tribute band called Living Monstrosity, and then of course Gruesome. So here's a guy that has spent a very good chunk of his musical career paying tribute to Death, to Chuck Schuldiner. So I mean, that's to be commendable. And Matt is certainly the guy for the job. He's super talented. His vocals are just a dead ringer for Chuck. It's just amazing how it's I'll say it later, but a bit creepy how much he doesn't really try to sound like Chuck. It's almost like he channels Chuck's spirit here. So it's been a lot of years and a lot of time invested in paying tribute to, granted, one of the most influential musicians when it comes to death metal. And we're right on the cusp of the third album dropping, which is called Silent Echoes. And there's a bit of lore behind this record that I've kind of just touched upon. I didn't go too deeply into, but apparently it was supposed to be recorded by Sean Reinert, the drummer from Death that passed away a year or two ago now. And the drummer for Gruesome, Gus Rios, very much a close friend of Sean's, and apparently Sean was supposed to be involved in helping produce or record this very album. And when he passed away, it inspired the band to reimagine the music they had for Silent Echoes. And they shifted the focus maybe away from the older sound of Death to more of the era where Chuck was emerging out of spiritual healing and into the more jazzy, technically challenged Human. So yeah, Silent Echoes is very much spiritually connected to the album Human. In fact, as this album was playing along, I would kind of cut back and forth between this and Human and just kind of utterly, first of all, blown away at how much Matt sounds exactly like Chuck. It's creepy. And the songwriting and the style of playing is very much that sharp, more note-based death metal, old school death metal that does get... There are moments where there is a death metal chug, an old school death metal chug, but the riffs go into more jazz realms due to odd time signatures and more advanced structures and a lot of twin lead guitar lines to really inject a heavy-handed dose of melody in with these songs. And though I usually save the production to the end, I think the production is very much a part of and another reason why this material sounds very much like the Human era of Death. It's perhaps a little bit more modern sounding than Human. Obviously, there's many years have passed since 1991, but there's just razor sharp production. The drums are very much at the forefront of the mix here, but not to the point where they are suffocating the guitars. It's just a very rhythm forward production, which is perfect because Gus's drumming on here is fantastic. He really does kind of channel the Sean Reinert spirit, as all the musicians do on this album. They really are dialed in and studied Human and, to a certain extent, spiritual healing as well. And this really could be a Death record. If you just change the logo at the top, it could pass. Having said all that, it's time to get into some of the tracks here. The album starts off with the track Condemned Identity. I mean, right away, revel in the pure nostalgia. From the sound to the riff stylings to Matt's nearly perfect emulation of Chuck's dry yet discernible death yowl. Condemned Identity fires this album off with, yes, again, a pure nostalgic trip. Note-based riffs that lock in with the kick drums are the main driving force of Condemned Identity, and this album at large, basically. When the power chords come in, a groovy heaviness offsets a tremolo riffing. It really is a powerful and well-written song to start the album, and it is a perfect example of what's to come.
Be careful what you think. Thoughts can be dangerous. Suspicion easily aroused. When fragile minds demand allegiance.
A Darkened Window is next. Gus Rio's drum work on this track and album is fantastic. He's a very expressive player, with his double bass being like iron tight, and as are the fills, and the way he effortlessly flows between headbangable death metal beats and more complex time signatures. He really does bring a lot of feeling and grace to these tracks. A Dark Window is a favorite of mine on the album. The melody lines and solo work are razor sharp. As is the dual guitar lines and the way Matt and Dan Gonzalez interact. Even though Robin isn't a DiGiorgio level bass player, and really, who is? She's a complete beast on her instrument, and her clean tone cuts through these riffs with her own tasty bass runs. She's really in the pocket on all of these songs as well. Another standout on the album for me is the song Shards. The more I got into the album and listened to it, Shards really has a similar feel to me anyway, as the track Secret Face found on the album Human. Playing the songs back to back or interchanging as they're going, it truly is remarkable just how exact Matt sounds like Chuck. It's creepy and impressive. I've said it numerous times here, but it's true. The riffs sound heavily influenced by Secret Face, as is the way they put the song together. If you're looking for unique ideas in your death metal, this album does indeed possess that, but these ideas first made their appearance in 1991 by the hands and heart of someone else. If you can get past this concept, then I think this album offers you one of the most authentic and exciting tributes you'll likely hear for the band Death.
What is real? What is illusion? Thoughts twisted into confusion. Are they dreams or obsessions?
On the title track, it's a bit heavier with slower and highly melodic twin guitar lines that sound more note for note, borrowed from Chuck's impressive tool shed of songwriting implements. Even the hammer-on solo about midway through the track offers an obvious nod of appreciation to the soloing style of Chuck before the track comes blasting back in. There's a very heavy track with some interesting twists in the structure, which, yeah, they do recall a lot of stuff from the beginnings of some of these songs, but these songs are structured and flow in such a way I'm not really concerned about what comes next. I'm just kind of along for the journey.
Lost in a world, what a rhyming words, a reality, where all is silent, silent.
So Voice Within the Void, Astral Oceans. This track kind of briefly breaks away from the hammering to start off with a minor synth intro before the riffs and double bass and tom heavy fills fade in. This track is a melody crammed instrumental that sounds note for note like something from the Death catalog until we get to the lone bass guitar line that creeps in to introduce a very jazzy time signature and series of riffs that gives this track a disjointed and fun runtime. Fragments of Psyche. The jazzy side of Death and Gruesome flows into this track as well, with off-time and interesting riffs before exploding into perfect double bass work where the guitars lock in with those pulsing kick drums. It really is so tight and perfect and precise. It just really lets these riffs fire out of the speakers at you. Killer melody lines and a bit of spiritual healing seeps in as if to salute the last true old school Death album. That is the album where he's starting to get busier, he's building, and he's starting to take his music into more adventurous directions. So Fragments of Psyche, thanks to calling a little bit from the old school, is another favorite song of mine on this album. It's just hard to ignore, and it really kind of jumps off the page due to, some heavier riffs and more of an old school nod. So Reason Denied closes the album in much the same way the album began. It's a syncopated and seamless union between guitars and drums, which, like I said, that razor-sharp connection really gives a lot of impact to this material. You got palm-muted crunch riffs, odd moments where the time signatures get complicated. All the while, Matt growls through the storm with his Dead Ringer vocal tribute to a legend. I mean, he, in a lot of ways, is the consistency. He's the foundation, and the music just kind of swirls and convulses around him.
Illusions build your mind's eye or make distortions. You defend and justify the tide in us.
So in closing, Silent Echoes. If you are looking for originality when it comes to death metal, you know what? It's not here, but that really is okay. Gruesome wears their heart on their sleeve with this material. You can tell there's a lot of time invested in studying the music they are trying to pay tribute to and making sure everything is perfect and right. So if you are a big Death fan and you always did kind of yearn for more material from Chuck, I mean, obviously we all did, even though Gruesome isn't Chuck, isn't Death, they are creating music that is very much in line with Chuck's vision. Granted, they're writing original music here, but the more you listen to this record, there are little things here and there as they're trying to emulate the sound. It is bound to happen that there's going to be some very similar sounding riffs to music you've heard in the past from Death. And no, Silent Echoes isn't Human, but damn, it's close. It could have been the album that came between Spiritual Healing and Human, or between Human and Individual Thought Patterns, where Chuck really starts to get more complex with his music. It could have been a companion album for sure. And having said that, I guess that is really the highest form of a compliment I could give Gruesome. I mean, they know going in they're not being original here, but I can definitely praise the band for doing an excellent job. They really did. They've nailed it here. And the tracks are really good. It's a complete step backwards in time that checks all the boxes for an old head like myself, a person that was very much invested in what Death was doing in 1991. So hats off to Matt Harvey and crew. Great job on a great sounding and perfectly executed album. And before I let you go, let's do a call to arms. Today, we're going to talk briefly on the EP that just came out by Vader. It's called Humanihility. It came out May 30th, 2025 on Nuclear Blast Records. So it's been 5 years since the impressive Solitude and Madness by Vader, and they're back with a very short 3-song EP. And when I say short, this EP is only 9 minutes and 16 seconds long. But, as you would expect, Vader bring the heat with their blasting and endlessly memorable old-school death metal destruction. So, getting right into it, Genocide Designed is the lead-off track, and it's just a blast furnace of a song when it needs to be, but does rage into those double bass triplets for a shot of thrash, which is, at lurking at the very DNA of this band. Peter's voice, he sounds just as stately and unique in his growling style as ever, which, thankfully, the years have yet to come to call for his hell-scorched vocal cords. So yeah, great track. Check this out. The follow-up is Rampage, which is a bit more on the punk side due to the style of drum work and the rapid-fire manner in which Peter delivers the lyrical phrases. Once those tasteful solos hit during the center of the track, you certainly can't overlook the heavy metal influence within the playing style. It's a good and energetic burner, for sure. So we're going to end this short little view into what Vader's been up to with the track called Unbending, which is sadly my least favorite track on the EP due to its slower and predictable, crunchy intro and verse riffs. This is kind of an odd choice to end this release on. It feels more like a deep cut from a full-length album. I mean, I could imagine something like this having more impact after 5 or 6 blast-fueled and chaos songs coming before it. So yeah, this EP is short, to the point, and indicating that Vader were hungry to give us a little snippet to chew on while they finalize, I hope anyway, a much-needed new full-length album. The old Polish guard is still alive and very well, and Humanihility is a testament to that. So that's it for me today. We got a little conversation about 2 old-school loving death metal bands. One upholding the spirit of an old school death metal band, and one that actually has been there since the beginning. So if you like these reviews, definitely give us a thumbs up, a like, maybe subscribe. Here at Heavy Metallurgy, we're here for you every week with reviews. We've got the Wednesday Album Club, and of course the big show every Friday. Myself and Alan have a guest. We talk about metal things because we do metal things. So stick around and we'll see you next week. Thanks a lot for the support. Cheers.